questions that often comes up when we talk about church or being in a relationship with God or growing in our faith is, how do we keep growing? Because it's one thing to start a relationship, but that's only the beginning. A relationship has to continue to grow. So what does it take to keep that relationship growing? Well, the letter that we looked at this past week was Paul's letter to a church. And in this letter, Paul describes exactly what he hopes for in order for them to keep growing in their faith. See, this church was exactly in the same situation that many of us are in. There are challenges, there are things that come up that get in the way of us growing in our faith, and if it's not one thing, it's another thing that keeps us from growing in our faith. And so in response to that, Paul says, I'm not just going to give you a checklist. I'm not just going to give you a few steps to take. I'm going to give you a truth that's so big and so broad and so deep that it can inspire you to grow in your faith and keep growing in your faith. The truth that Paul gives is this simple truth that God has made possible a relationship with God. It's not us who makes this relationship possible, nor is it us who makes it possible to grow in this relationship. It's simply God and God alone who makes this relationship with God possible. If that's the case, then Paul says you got to realize who Jesus is, because Jesus is the way that God made this relationship possible. And Paul launches into this enormous, incredible passage about who Jesus is. He talks about Jesus being bigger and before all things, and in him all things hold together. It talks about how formative Jesus is for our lives and the church and what Jesus intends to do. It's an incredible passage in Colossians chapter 1. What if we let that truth, the truth that God alone makes a relationship with God possible, what if we let that truth sit with us and we wake up every day fueled by that? It's possible we can keep on growing. This coming Sunday is the 500th anniversary of the Reformation. This happened in 1517 that turned the church upside down. We're going to celebrate that 500-year anniversary, and we're going to look more of what it means that we follow Jesus in a very specific way. We're looking at the book of Romans, and we're going to look at something called the Romans Road. I look forward to seeing you this Sunday.